we often have conversations where I talk about my two key components to the success that I've had is definitely the discipline and dedication. And it's much easier when the like you said the distractions are gone and there is no outside noise. It's also when you're in those situations, you were in military situations, I was in prison situations. These situations, there is still a component of like high level life threatening like consequences for not performing, right?
Yeah.
But out here on the streets, it's a much different it's a much different kind of caliber of game. The difference is the reward at the end, right? Um,
Yeah.
I feel like most people, especially around the holidays, right? The holidays are an easy time for people to justify not fully respecting the commitments that they made to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a, a, a layering of many textures during the holiday.
Yeah,
Some can be positive, but many can be negative during this time, right? Maybe somebody's, let's talk about family. All right, let's
yeah,
talk about family and the complexities we've talked about family quite a bit.
hmm,
Family can be some of the most, the biggest enablers,
yeah,
for, or you know, catalysts for
hmm,
that spark for somebody to go down. Domestic violence issues like skyrocket on like Christmas Eve and
hmm,
Christmas. Why?
yeah,
Alcohol and family, right? It's like you
totally.
got, Billy Bob and fucking whatever out in the front yard yelling at, it. Why? Dude, family has history. Family has a lot of emotional overlap. And also, say you're coming in as a new you, as an elevated version of you, they still see you as the old version.
Yeah,
That
and they
is a
want to.
huge piece, and they want to, or they
Yeah,
need to, for
they
whatever
need to.
reason, to keep telling themselves the illusion and the story that they are living in.
Yeah.
Not saying that's always the case, but can be. And so you got to understand what you're walking into. So this major piece of how to stay locked on in the holidays is what story are you living, and our family members and friends, what story are they living? Getting to terms with the reality of that and making sure those things are aligned.
Yeah, the family dynamic definitely feeds into this, right? There is I mean there is terminology used around this. And then going back into these situations, uh especially if you're early into this journey. I'm still relatively early into this journey, right? And understanding my boundaries around what I can deal with and what I can't deal with, but also understanding that it's extremely difficult for a healing person to go into a sick situation and continue to heal, right? To expect the
Yeah.
progress that you've made to dictate that they've made some kind of progress, it's illogical, right? And so
Yeah.
understanding that you're doing personal work, you're and it could be like on the physical side, it could be on the mental, emotional, spiritual, it could be that balanced male where you're trying to get everything in alignment. You're doing it. Yeah, this is not an
Yeah.
osmosis type thing. They are not going to inherit the progress that you've committed to and made, right?
Yeah.
And so,
And don't expect them to.
yeah, it's delusional, right? And
Yeah.
it's
And that's where people fall short, I think, Maddie, is expectation management.
yeah,
A
oh
lot of
yeah,
suffering, a lot of suffering is created in the gap of reality and expectation. I
yeah,
think Alan Watts talks about, desire and expectation, which is just a different word for expectation, right? Is where are people really and where do you expect them to be?
yeah,
Just because you're thinking they need to be a certain place, oh, because you started this thing, they need to be there. Why is that true? What? It's not true. It's a story we tell ourselves, and getting back a little bit of our own ego. A lot of the problems that we've created in our lives was because of ego. It's how I want to feel. It's what I think I'm owed or what I'm not getting. A lot of it's that type of those frequencies and states. So don't bring that in. Shed all that. Meet people where they're actually at. It
yeah,
doesn't mean if they are completely not healthy for you, you don't need to show up. Also, don't do what you fucking don't want to do. There's a huge in the right ways, right? Protecting your peace is a massive part of all this. Is it's
Yeah.
okay to not go if you're still fresh and aren't really sure and a little shaky. Fucking stay isolated, man. It's isolation isn't a bad thing necessarily. It's okay to take a
Okay.
Christmas off.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
totally. Now there's isolation versus solitude, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
early
Better
on,
word. Better word. Solitude's probably a better word.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. But if you are gonna participate, dude, create a game plan. Create a roadmap.
Yeah.
And the Irish goodbye is perfectly acceptable, right? Just disappear.
Yeah, yeah. Create it out, dude. It's a lot of times people don't give themselves an extract plan, an
Yeah.
exfil plan. Give yourself an exfil plan and give yourself the ability to leave. It sounds maybe just too specifically logistical, but bro, bring a car, bring a way out, bring or at
Oh,
least
dude.
create one. If you don't need to sleep at the house, I heard somebody say this that was good for their plan. They're like, dude, I just decided to stay at a hotel rather than my family's home.
Mm-hmm.
And we might be getting into some overly specific situations, but maybe that applies to somebody watching here. You're not required to do anything, right? And the you're only required to live well if that's your goal. So if make sure you're creating a situation where that's actual reality. If the whole goal here for people watching this and is, dude, am I living a high quality life? Okay, well, let's make sure that all the things I'm doing align with that. The family I'm with, the places I'm sleeping. Let's start there and then work our way out. And as you get a little bit more secure in where you're at and how you're living, then it gets easier. But definitely at the beginning, man, make sure you're setting yourself up for success.
Yeah. And if this is your first, dude, if this is your first holiday season where you're back on track, uh, this is where you're gonna set the groundwork. This is where you build your history, right? This is your first one
Yeah,
back. This is where you kind of set the pace for what next year looks like, and next year because it gets easier, right? So
yeah,
this year it's maybe it's kind of shaky, maybe it's kind of unsteady. Maybe you do maybe you utilize that exfil plan in such a way that you're looking at yourself going, man, was that unclassy or like whatever? But the reality is, you didn't drink, you didn't fight with your brother, you didn't be whatever, whatever
yeah,
the negative factor is in the equation. If you didn't participate in that, then you did it, right? You made it
yeah,
through, and next year gets easier. The crazy part about Christmas is New Year's is right after it, right? And so
yeah,
people use Christmas as the first stumbling block to justify the fall on New
yeah.
Year's. Dude,
Yeah, and you know
it's a
what
setup.
Christmas can also create a void of what you don't have, which
Oh,
is, we're talking about say you have it, but I've been dealing with some and working with some clients or just I should say kind of recognizing multiple situations that are similar in that guys who have lost their families, right? And are alone, whether it be their kids or some actions they took. So they're like alone on Christmas.
yeah.
Well, Christmas can also be a really good measuring stick for what you don't want.
Oh, yeah.
Say you're in this alone state and you've realized that your actions from this past year have created the situation where you are alone and you're not with your family. Restraining orders, divorces, you name it, right? This is all kind of happening right now. Maybe somebody watching is dealing with this. Good. Sit with it. Sitting with an uncomfortable situation is very powerful. When you go, yep, take an inventory, look around. You're like, I do not want this next year. Okay. So this next year is going to be, this is the best way. It's about, staying on track. Use this as a time to take a really honest inventory of what led to it, where we're at, and where you want to be next year. I like Christmas as a really good measuring stick because it's the end of the year It's December. We're wrapping up. You can. This is everyone's in this reflective time. Santa. It's a powerful time to really look back and go, am I at where I'm at? Am I where I want to be?
Hmm.
If that's not the case, then we better start making some adjustments to make sure next Christmas looks a little different. If you have lost your kids and you want to be with your family next year, okay. Well, what type of healing and what kind of damage control needs to happen for you to do that? Maybe you need to get the job on track. You need to get the actions on track, the habits, the vices, all these things. What needs to get and fucking do it?
Yeah.
Do it. Because you become and you are, your reality is what you do.
Yeah.
So let's make sure next Christmas looks a little different.
Yeah. Sitting in those feelings, right? Taking advantage of the situation that you're in. I call it experiencing the full benefit of your suffering, right? And all
Ooh,
too
I
many
like that.
times, yeah, all too many times people are just trying to escape it. When the reality is
Yeah,
it could be a massive gift that you can use as a springboard to never have to go through that again. Right? But the
yeah,
reality is so many people are trained and conditioned to run from pain. This isn't we're definitely not like living in 2000 years ago. We're not living 1500 years ago, or like people actually understood the benefit of their own suffering. You had the Stoic philosophies and like all of the forefathers of thought and philosophy that were talking about all of these things. Nobody's talking about this stuff anymore. Not in the mainstream, and definitely not like enough. But there's massive benefits to the lessons that are to be learned through your suffering. And if you are not using them beneficially, it's absolutely pointless. You're almost doomed to experience it again if you do not learn your lesson or benefit fully from your own suffering. It's cyclical.
well, even go scientific with it. Darwin, Origin of Species. I got it right up here on this shelf in the Harvard Classics. Right? There's no evolution in comfort. And when we've talked
Mm,
about this, our here's kind of the uncomfortable truth is that even when shit's good, we don't learn fuck all.
right.
We really don't. It's we have to institute our own suffering or our own pain points to keep evolving. If shit's too easy,
Hmm.
life is easy as shit right now. And I mean, even in your worst days, bro, you can still walk down to the store and get a fucking burrito, right? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
scrape together some change and get a taco. I got news for you. That's still pretty fucking easy.
Yeah.
So let's really zoom out and go, all right, this suffering is a gift. The man who can understand suffering as a gift is a very powerful individual. That
Hmm.
is a motherfucker that is very hard to beat. That can sit in his suffering and understand what it's telling him. What are the signals telling him? This is what, drugs, alcohol, what do? They dull the signal. They dull
Right.
signals. And those signals are very useful because they tell us something. Bro, if you're having anxiety, why? What is causing anxiety? Is it that you're procrastinating on stuff? Is that you don't have a fucking job? Is that well then address those things and start mitigating some of that anxiety. The pain avoidance and the comfort seeking with what you're talking about
Yep.
causes this psychosis. That is what is the root cause of psychosis. It's pain avoidance and comfort seeking. And so if we can understand those points with that sitting in the suffering, it's very powerful, man. It's a very useful tool.
Yeah, I tell people all the time that I am thoroughly convinced I'll never hear God's voice, right? What he did give me was anxiety. What he did give me were these friction points that I experience within my own mind to tell me, dude, you are fucking up. Whatever it is, like whatever you're going through, this is a high signal that there's something wrong. And if you don't fix it, it's just going to get worse. And this is the psychosis that you're talking about, right? When it goes unaddressed, it
Yeah.
snowballs into something completely different, right? What
Yeah.
goes off
Well,
is a
and it grows.
yeah.
It
So what
grows.
goes off is like an initial like red light turns into a siren, turns into those nuclear warning signs. Like something's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the next thing you know,
And
go ahead.
it's not fixable.
Correct.
Like then you see that it gets to this breaking point. Dude, the human spirit can break.
Yeah.
We see some of these, and I'm not saying that it's maybe unrecoverable, but it's so far gone. You see some of these people, dude, on the streets. You can just bro, it's sad because that the human spirit has gotten so damaged that it just breaks, man. And it's
Yeah.
real. And once it breaks into so many pieces, it's hard to get back together. If it can be recovered, bro, the synapses just get burned. And it's like it's from so much, so many times just trying to turn away from the pain and the anxiety of not having the job or skirting the responsibilities of your kids. Dude, we can't, it's just stacking karmic debt, and the karmic debt becomes so heavy it smashes us.
Yeah.
And when that karmic, we can't run from karmic debt. I don't care what country you go to, how many drugs you do, man, it's there, hovering.
Yeah.
It's like gravity. You can't escape it, bro. And so what do we do with that? Right? In the holidays, right? Bringing it back to what is this, dude? This is what the holidays kind of do. They magnify where we're at.
Oh yeah.
If we're in a good state, if we're in a bad state, right? People that are living good, healthy lives, they got their families around. You see them, and dude, there's been times where I've spent dark holes in the holidays,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where my current reality is magnified. Something powerful about this time that does it.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling somebody the other day, dude, my history of adult Christmases consists of something like this. 3 days later, somebody would be like, "Hey, what'd you do for Christmas?" And I would say, "Well, when was it?" Right? Because I am fully avoiding
Yeah.
I'm fully
Yeah.
avoiding that magnet, that magnifying glass, right? Because the
Yeah.
reality is, yeah, these are massively introspective time. There's something about the season that makes people look at things in a different way. And when you're
Yeah.
spending it alone, and when you're really reaping the consequences of your actions, if that's what it is, right? Consequences are not a negative thing inherently. There's good consequences, there's bad consequences. It's up to you how you interpret these
Yeah.
things, and ultimately, like, you dictate your own consequences. And so you could be experiencing your good consequences, you could be experiencing your bad consequences, whatever it is, right? There's something about the season that makes that amplified. And when you come out, hopefully everybody makes it through, right? Like, this is another big time of the year where male suicide gets spikes, right?
Yeah.
And this isn't just one of those things that's locked into a single gender. We're both men, so we talk to that experience, especially with the epidemic of silent suffering, and now we've got fentanyl on the streets, and things that will take your life without any regard of who you are, what you owe, or who you're responsible. None of that matters, right? You make these bad decisions.
Yeah.
One bad decision will take your life now. And so
Yeah.
staying on track, whether that's, on Thanksgiving, it was arm day and I was taking it off. And then
Yeah.
I get on YouTube and I see, I see Taylor's, okay, we're going to do this arm day. We're going to eat some food. And I'm like, God damn it. How am I going to get out of it now? Right.
Yeah.
But the reality is, staying locked in, there's degrees of staying locked in. I justified maybe not fully doing everything that I said I was going to do originally, but I then it turned it into, I wasn't going to work out at all. I still worked out. I still watched what I ate. I still did the baseline, right? I don't know
Yeah.
what staying locked in is for you, Taylor, but definitely I need to treat my wife better, right, during these holidays,
Yeah.
because we just had a baby. She's stressed out. I'm stressed out, right? Sleep, all that stuff. But the reality is, these are excuses to either do better or justify. Do better or
Yeah.
justify. That's just the
Yeah.
reality.
Let's create some history, right? Some food, some story, keep it itchy. Like, uh, Here's some of the differences, the juxtaposition of how things used to be, right? Well, so when I used to was sniffing fentanyl. I'd been kicked out of the SEAL teams. If people aren't aware of my story, I'd been kicked out of the SEAL teams, performance enhancing drugs, drinking, duress, mayhem. And I was gathered where I'm working in the civilian sector before I go to the French Foreign Legion. And I'm sniffing fentanyl every night. I'm taking Adderall, Xanax, and just doing that. That's just what I saw. And it was Thanksgiving. It wasn't Christmas time because I ended up burning before that, but it was like Thanksgiving time, and I touched base with the family. Definitely did a bump before I went in there. Was in there. I didn't want out for too long, and so I left. And I went out all night and yellow sassafras, and it was just whatever I was having. And it was because the holidays can be a very strong mirror. And if your family's good, and say you got a good family, right, and you don't want to sit there with that,
Yeah,
right? You don't want to sit there with the judgment, or if they don't say anything, it still feels uncomfortable. And also, you'd rather be doing something else.
for
And
sure.
so let's talk about actually like staying locked on, bro, being present. The ability to be
Mm,
present and not thinking that you want to be doing something else is very powerful. And so for me, being locked on in the holidays, dude, we're not robots. Dude, it's like I don't expect somebody to go, man, I'm gonna go run a marathon. It's like you always need to be some robot of perfection. Dude, that's stupid. It's not how I live my life. And so I downshift. I'll tell you, like yesterday, I fasted for a little bit because I want to be able to chill today, right? I'm not going to be sitting at fucking Christmas Eve with my Tupperware like a fucking asshole. It's like my pre-made chicken and rice. That's not how I live. So I did a bone broth fast, drank some black coffee, water, for 24 hours, and then had a little bit with the family. And it's about strategic control. Control's not the right word, but being strategic, being
yeah.
deliberate, and a little bit intentional with what you're doing. Giving up for me is like, hey, dude, I'm just going to do whatever I want and then feel like shit later.
Yeah.
It's like, or you could exercise a little bit of restraint and still enjoy yourself. And if you really want to do it right, put some parameters on the front and the back, like all fast on the 26th, and just do water and black coffee and then kind of enjoy myself for Christmas because it allows me to be more present. It just feels good for me to be that way, treating our people, the people in our life in a good way, being present with them, not being sidetracked by the phone or work or this or that.
Hmm.
That for me is what being locked on means.
Yeah, I think control is a good word for it, right? And it is throttling, right? But you've got to
Throttling.
be
Yeah.
intentional. Like there has to be a level of
Mm-hmm.
intention. And for me, like when I marry those two concepts of throttling and intention, you're controlling exactly the levers that you're going to pull in your life. And being present, dude, you can't be present when you're sticking needles in your arm, when you're
Yeah.
sneaking off to the
That's true.
closet to take a shot of alcohol,
Yeah.
when you don't want to be there. You know, being present is probably the high water mark of being locked on during the holidays,
Yeah.
right? If
Ooh,
even
I like
if
that.
yeah, I mean, even if like maybe your workout suffered, maybe you're not tracking your macros as well. It's hard. There's good food
Yeah.
around, there's good people
Yeah.
around, right? It's hard. Right? Maybe that suffered, but
Yeah. And also enjoy yourself, right? You can
yeah.
enjoy yourself, and it's
Yeah.
not, people think Christmas and New Year, that week is what's going to, bro, it's what you did between New Year's and Christmas. That's what matters, bro.
Yeah.
This week is not gonna be the make or break for you if you're not trying to get in a speedo on stage, right? If you're trying to be a locked on individual who's consistently getting better, I got news for you. You could take a couple cheat days and enjoy yourself, and do it within reason and keep your frequency good, and still it's still experiencing a high quality of life without being weird, or being
Yeah.
overly strict.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the reality is there are people out there who that is their obligation. They're getting on stage. They're training for that event. They're doing these
Yeah.
things. I'm not, right? But the reality
Yeah.
is I'm setting the pace for what my daughters are going to experience this year, next year, the year after that. I've got a 4-year-old, she's making memories now, right? I've got a
Yeah.
3-week-old, she's not, but
Yeah.
what I do today dictates the outcome for tomorrow. And it's like you said, what's going to happen between now and New Year's? Right? Is this going to
Yeah.
be that cascading effect of downfall where I had this experience on, and this is a lot of people will have friction points. That's just the way that it is, right?
Yeah.
Friction points are not failure points. Friction points are either,
Ooh, that's good.
yeah, it's either tighten the dial or loosen the dial, right? Whatever it
Yeah.
is, what it's saying to you is that you can, and here's the thing, a lot of people, friction points, they look outside. You use the friction point to internally critique, right? When I hit a friction
Oh,
point today,
yeah.
yeah, it's an indicator for your life, right? Not the other person's. Very easy to get in
Yeah.
the finger pointing.
Stern with self, kind with others, kind and gracious with others. Stern with
Yes.
self, not grim. And I think about holidays, birthdays, events like turns in a car. Say you're cruising at a good clip, and you come up to a turn. What do? You downshift, you zoom
Mm,
in your focus, and you focus on the turn, and then you'll hit a straightaway, and then you can pick the speed back up. I
yeah.
think of it just like that. I go, all right, we're coming into a turn here. I'm going to put some controls in. I'm going to focus in a little bit, focus on where I want to go, not where I don't want to go, which is if people that have taken driving schools or whatever, focus where you want to go.
Yeah.
Focus on what's coming up after. There's also can be this post holiday depression, which some
Yeah.
people kind of they look forward to the escape of the just the festivities and there's a change in energy. Bro, be grateful and look forward to after also. That and I think if we're not doing that, be focused and be grateful and excited about goals that you're going into in the beginning of the year. That's another good way to stay locked in on the holidays is don't forget why you started on this journey. Don't get this may sound strange, but don't get too present in the distraction.
Oh
Be
yeah.
present, but don't just be focused just on the present, right? It's that's there's that double-edged sword of presence, and we can justify it in weird ways, going, "Well, I'm just going to enjoy the now." Yeah, dude, but don't forget about tomorrow, when June and January and February.
Okay, so in addition to exactly what you're talking about, something that I've seen and ran into, and maybe fallen victim to as well, is that I will I will justify that depression and use that as an excuse, right?
Yeah,
It's I didn't do anything wrong and I was still alienated, right? And now I'm going to feel
yeah,
sorry for myself, and now I get to use at people, or now I get to be angry at people, whatever it is, right? Whatever your
yeah,
default is as far as negative behavior, it could be anger, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, right? Destructive sex, whatever it is. It is not, and I had to learn this in other ways, but uh other people's faults are no longer my distractions. In addition to that, uh people's opinion of me, and I learned this in prison, right? People's opinion of me is not my problem. It's their problem, right? And it doesn't mean
yeah,
that it's real either. Um, for people, especially in recovery, you're gonna go through these situations during the holidays, specifically during the holidays. You're gonna have family that's looking at you,
yeah,
right? They're gonna be like
yeah, yeah,
getting in your face and like really not quiet about it either. They don't know what's going on. A lot of the time,
yeah,
they are more uneducated than you, right? And
yeah.
and so don't use it as an excuse, right? It isn't fair. First of all, it isn't fair to yourself, but it isn't fair to them either because they don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, nobody can understand your journey. It's not for them to understand.
Yeah.
It's enjoy your time and be present. And politics and all this other shit that people bring in. Like I have family members that don't even won't even sisters. in our family that won't even talk to each other because they have different political affiliations.
Yep.
Dead serious. And it's, what are we missing out on? This is also a time to forgive people for shit,
Hmm.
and this is something that is at the root of a lot of abuse on ourselves.
Oh yeah.
With drugs, what is resentments, old feelings we have. This is a good time to let go of those. Staying locked on in the holidays is a good time for healing. It doesn't mean you need to fuck with people, right? If they're damaging or can be somewhat toxic, it doesn't, that word's overused, but if they're not,
Yeah.
if they can be kind of detrimental in your life, it doesn't mean you have to engage with them, but you can forgive people from afar and maybe you do engage with them again. Just something that I'm thinking about in my life. And negative actions, Maddie, you talked about negative actions. My life changed when I realized, and I still fail at this time to time. I'm not some perfect piece in glass, but any negative action I do is my fault.
Oh yeah.
It's not even if it's a reaction, right? And
Hmm.
and I'll use anger. A lot of men can understand with anger. It's how we express when we're frustrated. Is it doesn't matter what somebody else is doing. If I'm emotionally reactive or go run down to the bar to lash out or I've got man or just I'm gonna leave, whatever that looks like, that's my fault. It's not because of anybody else. And nobody can make us feel any type of way. We choose to.
Yeah.
And that is so hard. And it's easier said than done. But family specifically, for whatever reason, that is the trigger for all of us
Hmm.
because we got a lot of FaceTime with them and we immediately fall back to our old habits. We can still be doing well, maybe on the vices and those things, but still be falling back in our emotional reactions, right? We can
Yeah.
still be juvenile and very primitive in how we react to things, but still, you could be stone sober and still be just like you were in days of heavy use in terms of anger. Is
Oh
that
yeah.
real growth? Right. That's something that we always still need. Your actions can be one thing, but also your reactions can be something else, and both need to be better.
Yeah. We live in 2025. We're about to be in 2026. Unfortunately, we live in a situation where healthy communication isn't taught. There's no premium on it. And in addition to that, what it translates to for the person is that we all, unless you are intentional about your self-talk, fall victim to negative self-talk, right? And
Yeah.
most people don't even realize they're doing it. And so they have a narrative that they're playing in their head. Now they're inheriting guilt and shame that probably isn't even real. People don't care, right? We are not such a big deal that people even give a fuck about what we're doing, right? But
Yeah.
now we think that they're saying this, or we think that they're saying, or they looked at me this way or whatever, and now we're playing tapes through that. We don't have any business playing these tapes through because it's none of our business what other people think. But now we're falling into patterns of destructive behavior, whether it's the anger, drinking, whatever, destructive behavior that we are positively reinforcing through our own negative
Yeah.
self-talk.
Yeah. Self talk is not really taught much.
No.
You don't learn it in school. I don't even think they brought it up. Like you're having the, but think of the importance of it. It is the lens. It is the tone with which you navigate the world.
Yeah.
There's people with positive self talk who will wake up and look at a sky and go, man, what a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Somebody in a negative state will go, oh man, fuck this day. Look at there's clouds or whatever, right? Same sky, completely different reality they're living only because of the internal dialogue that they're speaking. So one of the most important things, if not the most important, is raising your consciousness of what is the tone with which you speak to yourself. Be and it needs to be trained deliberately. It doesn't just happen naturally because especially if you're old pathways run deep of how
Oh
you
yeah.
actually interact with yourself, bro, then it's just going to stay there. You need to accurately speak positively in a very deliberate way. It will feel awkward for somebody that hasn't done it And then I say, they go, oh, it feels like I'm forcing, like, oh, it's going to be a good day, but I don't really believe it. Well, that's a good sign. That means that you're doing something new. Think about how weird it is that speaking positively to yourself would feel awkward.
Oh, dude.
That's not good. That's not how it should be. But we can't Jedi mind trick ourselves either. You can't have some sleep in, lazy, get up at noon and fucking eat like shit, and then go, yeah, I'm really crushing the day. Your subconscious mind knows the truth, and
Yeah.
so the holidays are a really important time because this is a really good time, especially if you've been kind of locked on and you start to slip. You'll notice the self talk and
Oh, yeah.
invasive thoughts
Oh,
getting
yeah.
more negative. And pay attention to that. That's not nothing. It's because your vibrational frequencies dropped. You're starting to get into pleasure seeking and and go a little soft on yourself. This is when you pull the restraint back up. Get up early. Keep a good schedule. This goes right back to the whole theme of this is keep a decent schedule for yourself. It doesn't need to be perfect, but if you've been waking up early and being pretty consistent, keep doing that. Don't just stop because you came and saw your family and they go, well, I don't have room. Well, get up and go outside for a fucking walk. Maybe you can't do your whole little morning process with your coffee, but can you get up and take some time and be present and intentional in the same ways, even if it's not perfect? It's not about perfect. It's about persistence. A persistent process, even through times that aren't perfect, dude, that's a win. Major win. And guess what? You feel better about yourself. And now you're up and your family gets up and I don't care how much of a piece of shit or pain in the ass they are, you could still be like when you did the right shit and that you held yourself to a higher standard continuously. And you're like, yeah. And now you're coming into it in a much better state and vibration.
Yeah, and it's the reframe of what a barrier is, right? You can see it as a barrier all day, but a barrier means you're not getting around, right? Or you can see it as an
Yeah.
obstacle and figure shit out, right? But
Yeah.
the reality of all this is, like, at least for me, is that um like living in that negative self-talk uh and trying to get out of that, right? Years and years of years of unintentional negative self-taught kind of put me in a position where when I finally realized that there was other things at play, including my own narrative, when I heard my own narrative, it shocked me, right? When I
Yeah.
realized what it was, I was like,
Well said.
oh my gosh, dude. And so it was very easy for me to understand that, like, okay, this isn't the self-talk did not match reality, right?
Yeah.
And this is where part of that psychosis that you're talking about really comes in, is and that is the definition of delusion, right? When your belief
Yeah.
system doesn't match reality, what
Yeah.
you really are is delusional, right? And a lot of
Yeah.
my self-talk was delusional in a negative way, right? But the reality
Yeah.
was you do so many things right a day, right? The average person does so many things right. They turn the light off when they leave the room. They put the toilet seat down when they pee. They tie both of their shoes on the right feet. Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
corny. Yeah, it might not mean a whole lot, but when you have a negative self narrative, those small things, realizing like, by the time I leave my house, I've done 100 things correct, right? Starts to
Yeah.
really move the needle on how you see yourself. And this is where it really moved the needle for me as far as real positive self-talk, because it was like made these small adjustments, and all it was the realization around the reality of the thing. And 2 months later, within 2 months of like keeping track of those small things, I was realizing and telling myself, you know what, I'm not as big of a fuck up as I thought I was,
Yeah.
right? And that was really kind of pushing doors open. And it wasn't linear, and it definitely wasn't easy, and it definitely wasn't logical. These journeys that we go on, dude, think about the journey that you had to go through. Crazy, like massive shifts, small shifts. Massive shifts are like the result of all of these small things, right? But um it's all these small things that you put into place where you're really like pressing little buttons and like doing small things. When you step back from it, and that's when the whole picture's changed, right? And around like the
Yeah.
interactions with the family and staying locked on in during the holidays, it doesn't mean it isn't this monolithic, huge, monumental thing. It's sometimes it is like, okay, I'm gonna go to this family party. I'm gonna stay for 45 minutes, and then I'm gonna go home, do some deep breathing, watch a movie, sit with my wife, whatever it is. Like it's small moments stacked up together that create the holidays, right? It isn't this
Yeah.
monumental thing.
Yeah. And self-worth you're talking about, it's really, you can only match your love for somebody with how much you love yourself.
For sure.
And and so think about how that affects our relationships in our life. If all day long you're just being grim and self-deprecating, how do you think you're going to be able to meet somebody else and it show up for them?
Yeah.
And so it's actually important, and recognizing part of self-love is recognizing the right things you do rather
Yeah.
than like rather than being overly self-critical. Yes, it requires you to be not doing a bunch of fucked up shit. Yes, your self-talk's going to be dog shit if you're stealing from people and being a piece of shit, right? It should be.
Yeah.
And but what I found in working with people and in myself is self-talk lags behind action. The mind lags behind. And you could be doing, and I don't know if it gets branded differently or if it's just a harder fix, but you can be doing a lot of right things and have changed your life quite a bit, and your self talk can be still with you being a piece of shit. And
Yeah.
that gap is where there's a lot of suffering. And so I like to make sure people are okay. Now the physical happens, or say, now remind yourself it's okay to go, you know what, I'm proud of myself. Fuck,
Yes.
dude, you can say that's okay to feel proud of yourself and without feeling egotistical or not being. No, it's you should be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
That's fucking what you should be. That shouldn't be some rare state. That's why we do things that give us high self worth. We
Yeah.
wake up early, even though we didn't want to. We lean purpose over pleasure, right? And leaning at, we are present. We're not distracted. We're not late. We're not rushing. We keep our cortisol levels down. We eat healthy. You're doing all these positive things that plug you into a positive feedback loop. And then you start thinking positively, right? And then
Mhm.
now you're in this upward trajectory versus the opposite, doing bad things, thinking bad thoughts, having bad things happen to you, right? That makes sense. You really only have two options. There is no stagnant. So let's pick the other one where we are doing and thinking good things and good thoughts, happy thoughts, just like motherfucking Peter Pan, dude. You need to think
Yeah.
happy thoughts and positive thoughts. It's not lame. You absolutely should. And that creates a whole different world, right? The world is a mirror, not a window.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the reality, I mean, so when we talk about the result of self talks, I think the reason why there is that gap, that lag that you're talking about around what's physically happening and what your belief system is because at least for addiction and mental health, we have a history of doing the right thing and then still sliding back, right? The
Yeah.
reality is that those are choices, though, right? Like
Yeah.
after you are no longer
Yep.
using actively, it is now up to you to make the choice to continually not use, right? And so a
Yeah.
lot of that apprehension, a lot of that almost disconnect between what's going on in reality, if you're doing the right thing, and what you're still believing is that you haven't built the history to back it, right? And so it's based on a lot of truth. Um,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to stay your truth. It everybody has got to start somewhere, right? And
Yeah.
it
It's
might,
empirically true on the path of
yeah,
what was. I, man, I feel like something like that impending doom, right?
oh
That a
yeah,
lot of us kind of would feel. And I go, yeah, it was impending doom because we're doing a lot of bad, dumb shit. It makes sense that the bad, dumb shit's going to happen, right? And then I realized, I go, dude, I stopped having problems when I stopped being problematic.
oh yeah,
It was like, yeah, it makes sense from an outside perspective. When you're not in the jar, you can actually read the fucking.
Yeah, dude, self-worth, right? How do you build self-worth? You do worthy actions, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
The like if the goal is to have self-worth, you can't do it by ripping people off, lying, cheating, going behind your wife's
Yeah.
back. You can't do it that way. You've got to,
Yeah.
and I think a key to that is doing the right thing for the right thing's sake, not out of fear of punishment, not out of fear
Yeah.
of getting caught, not out of, but it's like I used to ask people, Richard Dawkins wrote a book. It's called The God Delusion. And in it, he says, if there is a God, wouldn't he rather me do the right thing for right thing's sake than out of fear of going to hell? And I live my life by that now,
Yeah.
right? Like, I would much
Yeah.
rather do the right thing because it's the right thing instead of out of fear of the consequence of doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. And
live that
you'd
way.
mentioned that before with like
Yeah.
drug use. Like
Hmm.
you had said something along the lines, Maddie, of like there was a time where I was just not using because I was afraid of the consequences, and then when I just didn't want to, which is
Yeah.
different.
Totally.
That's different.
Totally
Those are
different.
two different states, and obviously that's where you want to get to when you. It's not about, oh, I don't want that karmic. It's like, well, I feel more worthy when I'm doing worth. You said that well with doing worthy things. I'm going to treat this person well, show up present, be good because that's the right thing.
Yeah.
That's it. Period. That's what it should be.
And there's an evolution to all things, right? Like, I mean, you talk about it all the time. That evolution is massively important. It isn't just important to get there, but it's important to understand the journey. Without going
Yeah.
through these motions, if you just go from totally ill-equipped person, totally unhealthy to just completely healthy and well-adjusted, there's no appreciation for the in between. And so,
And you'll
especially
destroy
if
it.
oh,
It will
you
destroy. It will get. You've been fat your whole life, and then you got abs. Well, now you're cheating on your chick, right? It's
dude.
like I've seen. It's like I
Oh
see.
yeah.
There's like there's. I mean, I'm using a very simple example, but it's like you. There needs to be a maturation process.
Yes.
There's a maturation process, and that was a huge piece of my legion. People ask me why I go. I said why I went in for close to half a decade. I said I was still in it. I knew I needed time. I needed time to like mature
Yeah.
and said in the most simple ways. I wasn't thinking, still so very juvenile. And that is a really, so this is going back to people watching, embrace the pace. Be grateful it's taken so long. That was a piece where that changed my life when I was like, thank God I have 3 more years here. Right? I was like, I need that time. Oh my God, your life changes when you're not impatient anymore, when you're just grateful for how long it's taking.
Yeah.
It's like you really paradigm shift on your shift around. You go because then it's about the process and not about the results.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing that I'm going through right now is part of that paradigm shift is it seems like when things are going terrible and everything sucks and you just want everything to just stop, it takes forever for those things to pass.
Yeah,
And then you've
yeah,
got a good life and you're making good decisions and you love the people around you and you love yourself. And it seems like time speeds up like 10 times. Right. And now it's
lies.
like my baby is almost a month old already. Right. Your baby's
Yeah,
how old now?
a year, bro, almost to the
Dude.
day. A
Wow.
year.
And
And
it's
and
going
why is
by.
that, Maddie? Right? Why is that? It's flow state. Flow state. We talk flow state. That is the state which we are all trying to get into. It's when your thoughts, actions, and speech are all aligned, and they're all aligned with your desired outcomes, and then things start to click into gear. The universe, God aligns for you when you're aligned, and so it's like boom, you hit into this jet stream. It's
Yeah.
like a life jet stream where you're just in this smooth battle rhythm and things are going well and clicking. I'm sure we've all felt it, or people, many have, where things just start happening for you. How? Who knows? It's energetic. And that's why things start to kind of do there always no. And then we definitely feel it when it feels friction filled. So when those friction moments start to happen, I use that as a time self inventory. Am I still doing the same things I was doing when I was feeling it really clicked into gear? A lot of times the answer is no.
Yeah, the amazing part is without the intentionality piece, it's so easy to miss these marks, right? Next thing you know, like,
Yeah,
you've got a year-old daughter, right? I
yeah,
met her months ago, right? She was just a little
yeah,
baby, right? And
yeah, dude.
it's like even when things are going right, you still have it's so important to be intentional because shit'll just fly by you, right? And so
Yeah,
even
and the
if
variables.
yeah, dude.
Yeah,
So even if things are locked in and you're doing great and you're present for your family, you're making those good decisions, it's still very easy to let life just pass you by, right? I
yeah,
mean, I'm watching it in real time with somebody very publicly that it's like he was locked on so hard for so
yeah,
long, and he's like publicly recognizing now it's like, dude, I didn't appreciate all the things that I had, right? Because it was
yeah,
just so robotic, like you said, so robotic, so just in lockstep. And it was like you couldn't stop to smell the flowers, right? Stop to smell
yeah.
the flowers.
And that is not weakness. And that's not being locked on, right? Taking the detour through the park and the slow and walking
Yeah.
is a sign of massive levels of control,
Oh yeah.
right? A lot of times people mistake a really tight schedule with that's evolution versus somebody that anything truly strong has sway built in. Think of a skyscraper.
Oh yeah.
The highest skyscrapers in the world have sway built in.
Mm-hmm.
It like Marcus Aurelius said, straight, not straightened. I love that. That is, I get the chills when I think about the power of that simple statement. Straight, not straightened. It means obviously you're never going to be perfect, but it also means your schedule's never just like this, nor
Yeah.
should it be. That's not what this is all about. You need to be able to be so strong that you can bend in all ways. You wake, guess what? My morning process, the baby's crying. Is my day shit because my morning process wasn't perfect? Fuck no. Not
Yeah.
that weak, right? That's where people use it as a crutch and it's not what it should be. And this is part of the Christmas time. Oh, you got family coming over and there's cakes out and shit. Who gives a shit? Right? It's like have one and exercise some straight, dude. It's like this is what you choose what it is and what it's not, right?
Dude.
And what your state is.
Yeah. You cannot I'm going through these like I think a lot, right? And so I've been asking myself for the last month, like, can I abuse a hammer? Right? Can I beat a hammer up? Like, can I abuse a table? Right? Can I
Yeah,
abuse drugs? Or am I really just abusing myself? Right? And
yeah, dude. Well said, dude. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
right. And
yeah.
so
Well said.
and
That's a good
so
point.
uh these inanimate objects that we look at and kind of point blame to, dude, you're giving so much power to something that has absolutely no control over its own destiny, right? Whereas
Yeah,
you, like, it became a very empowering thing for me to be able to say, I am no longer going to shift the blame to anything other than myself, right? I'm going to take
yeah,
accountability for my actions because you could build a house with a hammer or you could beat somebody's head in with it. You, the person who
yeah,
is dictating and manipulating the tool, we dictate the outcome, not the substance,
dude.
not the
That's
circumstance.
awesome, bro. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. I've never heard anybody say that. Like flip that, but you're right. Like people say I abused drugs. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
You abused yourself. I heard there was some Wall Street investor. He's pretty forward thinking guy, but just a wealthy guy, very successful in his investments. And he took out like $100 bill or something. He put it on the table, and he goes, "I'll teach you something about money." He goes, "What is that? What is that?" He goes, $100. He's like, "What is that? What does that $100 think of you?" Nothing. Does it have any emotion? What does it do? It just sits there. Yeah. Why do you have any emotion about it? It doesn't give a fuck about you.
Yep.
Right. And that's it. And also, it does nothing if it sits on this table. Right. You control what it does, but you don't have to be emotional about it. And we do that with everything. It was just a well said kind of anecdote. And do that about everything. You choose the emotional inputs you have with anything.
Yeah, dude. It isn't, it isn't. And again, we can look at these as friction points. We can really use any kind of analogous wording around whatever we want, right? The reality is Christmas time, just another day, right? The $100 bill, it will never do anything sitting on that table. That hammer, it'll never
Yeah.
build that house. It'll never kill that person.
Yeah.
The drugs, they'll never put themselves in that spoon, cook themselves up, pull
Yeah.
themselves up into that needle, poke themselves into it. This stuff has no control or
Well said.
bearing on what you do with your life, right? And so it's like taking control, right?
That's empowering. You always talk about self-reliance. I think you use the word of like a self-reliant life. Is that the word you
Yeah,
use?
it's so Samsha changed. It's a self-directed life. They changed their
Self-directed.
yeah, they changed their definition of recovery. And one of the key phrases in there is that you learn to live a self-directed life.
Yeah. That is truly the great point to kind of cap off this live
Yeah.
is self-directed, right? Environment, things. It's massively empowering when you realize that you have all the control to do
Yeah.
and live how you want.
Yeah. It's you lived long enough in whatever self-made imposed problems that
Yeah.
I did too, right? 17 years of drug addiction and homelessness and just prison and then your story, right? We could
Yeah.
tell everybody all day long that you don't want to go down that road, right? And they don't. Ultimately, they don't.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're gonna go down that road, at least
Own
uh,
it.
own it and recognize the benefits of your suffering, right? But
Yeah. And recognize it's your choices, nothing else.
and that's the thing, right? Is in order for it to be self-directed, you can't point at anybody else and you can't point at your dad that hit you or your uncle that molested you or whatever and be like, this is that person's fault. You'll stay there forever.
Yeah.
You just will.
It's not useful. It's not useful.
Yeah. Well, all right, dude. This is great. I loved it.
I love you, dude. Yeah, dude. I really, it's a great time to really just be grateful. Gratitude's a cheat code, and this is a good time for that. If you got nothing, be grateful for the suffering. If you got your family around in your life, be grateful for that. You can be grateful in any.
Yeah, definitely be grateful, but just stay aware of your own mental state, right?
Yeah.
All right, I've got house cleaners vacuuming, so
Love you, dude. And
love
I
you, dude.
trust everyone's going to have a good Christmas. Be present. Be grateful.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.